Straight all day.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how and when to take out the trash. Before we begin this, let me remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and weekly motivation text messages. When we start sending those out again, you'll be getting them straight to your phone. All you got to do is text me and be part of my text community. It is free to join. My number is 305-384-6894. Send a text to that number. And when we start sending those messages again, those of you who have followed my instructions and texted me, you'll be in my community. You'll be getting those messages. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to work with me directly, have me as your direct coach, have me as your accountability coach, have me as the person who you can share your ideas, challenges, and needs with and get direct, specific answers that are tailored to your specific situation, business, and desires. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. We're looking for top level performers there and those of you who plan on being that if you're not already. Secondly, let's get into the show. Today's topic, once again, is how and when to take out the trash. I'm going to tell you where this topic is coming from. Now, I mean this metaphorically because I think all of you understand taking out the trash at home, that you probably take it out. Usually, most people who I know, if they're living in a place full time, and taking out the trash damn near every day because that trash can fills up. And you don't want trash sitting in your house because then it leads to all kinds of critters who you don't want in your home. So I mean taking out the trash in terms of things that are no longer useful or beneficial to you, and you know that need to be discarded, and you will never need use for them again. Therefore, you are willing to put them in the trash. You're not putting them in the closet. You're not putting them on layaway. You're not putting them in storage. You're putting them in the trash, which means you don't care what the garbage men do once they take them away. You just want them taken away. That's what we're talking about here today. How to identify what those things are, and then how to make sure that you get rid of them one time so you never have to do it again. One time, only time. Point number one. Topic, once again, is how and when to take out the trash. Number one, first of all, let's identify some trash. One piece of trash are your bad, unproductive habits. Bad and unproductive habits. What is a bad habit? It's a habit that it's a thing that you continuously do that is not serving you and is not helping you get towards your goals. That is a bad habit. Unproductive habit is something that you are doing consistently. It is taking up resources, but it is not producing a return on that investment. You need to identify what these things are for you. Human beings, that's us, we are creatures of habit. And 85% at least of all the things that we do are habit-based, meaning most of the things that we do them all the time, over and over again. We are consciously unaware that we're even doing it, which means 85% of our lives are controlled by things that we're not even consciously thinking about, which means we better get control of that 85% because that's a big percentage. Right? Can we all agree to this? See, not every habit that we have is serving us in a positive way, even though habits are moving us and controlling us in many ways. They're not all helping us. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean it's helping you. So it is our job to identify the habits that are not serving us and get rid of the ones that are not helping and do more of the ones that are helping. The challenge with this is, although it sounds relatively simple, is that our habits are, as I said, unconscious. They execute on their own energy, they execute on their own volition. That's why they're habits, so we don't have to think about them. So we don't even notice that we're doing things that are habitual to us. So has any of you, for example, ever had a friend or a colleague or a coworker or just someone who you are around consistently for whatever reason, maybe a teammate, a neighbor, and they had a bad habit, or at least to you it was a bad habit, or it was an annoying habit, or a nasty habit, or a frustrating habit, or some type of habit that just bothered you in some way that another person had, and you could tell, whether you're thinking about it now or maybe you thought about it then, that that person did not realize that the habit was annoying to you. All of us have had this happen. All right. Many of you have probably worked with someone like this. Maybe you've had a teammate in sports who was like this. Maybe you had a boss, or usually if it's someone who's an underling to you, or you have superiority, you have seniority over them, you could probably tell them about the habit and make them do something about it because you had the power to do so. You had the authority to tell them about themselves. But let's say you had a boss who had a bad habit. You might not be able to tell your boss about their bad habit. Or maybe one of your parents had a bad habit when you were a kid. You didn't like the habit, but you weren't in position to tell them that you didn't like the habit. Or maybe if you have a significant other who has a bad habit, maybe you can at some point let them know, hey, this habit is kind of not helping here. And maybe they did something about it and maybe they didn't. But we all have known people like this. I'm giving you that frame to help you understand that you probably have some bad habits that for other people, they don't like them. And maybe, again, they may not be in position to tell you, or they may not have the language skills to communicate to you that this habit is not, or at least it's not so pleasant to them, even though for you, maybe it's something that you like. Often it's something that you're not even aware that you're doing, that you would easily fix it if you knew about it, or change it, let's say, because you may not consider it to be broken. You would change it if you knew about it, but you just don't know about it because nobody told you. And you're consciously unaware of it because that's the nature of habits. Habits, we are consciously unaware of them, which means we do things over and over and over again and don't even realize that we're doing. If you listen to the show consistently, you notice that, and since I talk about this stuff, I notice a lot of things that are habitual for me, but there are still some things habitual for me that I may not notice, but I notice a lot of them simply because I talk about it. You may notice that I use certain language patterns. I use certain words certain ways. There's a certain tenor and tempo to the way that I talk. There's a certain uh, voice inflection that I use when I'm making my points and saying the things that I'm saying. There's certain words that I use often. There's certain words that I seldom use. Those are all habitual. Those are all habits of the way that I communicate. And you have your own habits that other people notice if they communicate with you or listen to you or read you or whatever it is often enough. So although it sounds simple to just change habits that are not serving us, and everyone constantly agrees that's a pretty good idea, the challenge is, first of all, noticing what these habits are, and secondly, changing them. Our habits are hard to break. Have you ever heard that saying before? The reason habits are hard to break is because they are programmed into our subconscious patterns, and it's in order to change a subconscious pattern, first of all, you have to identify it. That's the hard part. Then another hard part is we have to decide what to replace it with or how to extinguish it, which is not something that always happens so quickly. Remember, there are three ways to change the programming in the subconscious mind. One is repetition, one is emotionalization, and another one is immersion. So you have to use at least one of those three methods in order to change any habit that you notice that you would like to change. And often a habit is best changed when it is being replaced with something else, not just completely removed, therefore leaving a vacuum. So the change is, first, we have to identify the habits themselves, get conscious about the unconscious, and then we're empowered to do something about them. The biggest challenge that many of us have is either in identifying the habit or finding a way to edit or eliminate the habit. And the reason why many habits are what they are is because they're, again, so hard to break, because they are programmed into the subconscious, and the subconscious controls the majority of our actions, not our conscious thinking. Point number two. Today's topic, once again, is when and how to take out the trash. Number two, we got to identify the useless, non-contributing people. So we talked about the habits. The habits are the things that we are doing with and for and to ourselves that may affect other people. And this second point is about the other people around us who, again, are useless and non-contributing to us. These are the trash that needs to be taken out. And when I say that these people are trash and needs to be taken out, it doesn't mean that you go and kill people who you don't like. That's not what I'm suggesting that you do. What I'm saying is you get them out of your orbit and let them go affect other people, and so that they can stop affecting you. So this can be one of the easiest, but also one of the hardest things to do when it comes to taking out the trash. Sometimes you have associations with people who you love and have affection for. Now, it could be a child of yours. Maybe some of you who are parents have had to deal with this. There's a person, you love them, have affection for them, a child, but they have some habits that are really bothering you and causing you, let's call it pain or distress or annoyance or frustration in some way, to the point that you're like, okay, I got to get this person away from me and let them figure things out some other way besides coming from me, because clearly I'm not able to get the job done with this person. Maybe you have a friend that you've been around for a long time. You had to get from being around them. Maybe you have actually on the friend situation. I was just watching this video yesterday. This woman named Candace Owens, who is I guess you call it political commentator, and she was telling a story of how she had a friend that, what I was watching, she was talking about why she doesn't drink alcohol, Candace herself. And she was telling this story about how she had a friend who had basically become an alcoholic. And she let the friend stay at her house because the friend had basically, messed herself up through alcohol. Asked Candace, can I stay at your house? And Candace let the woman stay at her house. And the woman was still messing up because of the alcohol. And she started to drink more and more alcohol. And her alcoholic habits started to show up while she was staying at Candace's house. And I didn't even get through the end of the story what Candace was saying, but I believe the end of the story was Candace had to get rid of the woman because her habits, even though she was a friend, all right, she was a good friend and she wanted to help her friend out. She was helping her friend out, but letting her stay at her place. But her habits were so bad that even she couldn't fix it. She was trying, and she read this. She was talking about how she did all this research on articles about alcoholism and trying to help her friend out. And I don't know if she kicked the chick out, but somehow I think the chick ended up stopped drinking somehow, some way. The point being, Candace was trying to help a friend out who was spiraling downwards, and there wasn't a lot that she could personally do herself to kind of help her friend. But if she knew her friend needed to be helped, but she might not have been the person who could do the helping. But sometimes it's an association, as I said, somebody who you have love and affection for because you've known them for a long time, you have positive memories with this person, but today their association is not serving you right now. And we all understand that there is no neutral in the universe. And life, as a person, you are either getting better, getting worse, you are growing or dying. There is no staying in the same space. There, there's no neutral, as I just said. So people are either making you better or making you worse. And we must respect the fact that our time is limited. So any time you spend with someone who's not making you better, that means you're getting worse, and you will not be able to make that time back that you're losing. So every minute you spend with that person, again, that's lost time. That's a sunk cost. And it makes it a bad investment that's going to cost you in the long run because, again, the long run is happening right now, by the way. So we have to be vigilant, and decisive about removing people from our lives when those people are not serving us, or at worst limiting our associations with these people. All right, staying away from them. So sometimes that person can be somebody who you know, like, and trust, or you have at least you love them. Maybe you don't trust them as much anymore because they're going backwards, but you love them and would like to help them because they're a friend, or maybe you have a long association with them. And sometimes it's a person who you have no real connection to. Maybe they just work in the cubicle next to you, and you just need to stop talking to them because they're so negative, and you just want them to stop coming over to you and interrupting you while you're supposed to be working, and they are as well. You just want to, maybe you'll ask to get moved to a different office or to a different cubicle to get away from this individual. So sometimes it can be that way as well. To give you another example, this morning I was coming back on this people mover train that we have here in Miami. This goes around kind of like the downtown main area of the city, and it's a free train. You can just hop on and take you from one end of the main area to another end of the main area. And I was on this train with my son, and it was a little small train, so it was probably about 8, 10 people on it this morning. And there was this girl, I believe she was Asian. She was sitting down. There's not that many seats on this train, so it was like 2 seats on one end and 2 seats on the other end of the car. I never sit in the seats. I always like to stand up. So the girl was sitting in one of the seats by herself, and there's nobody in the seat next to her. And this black guy gets on the train. He goes and sits down in the seat next to her, and I could hear him talking. I'm kind of far away from them, but the car is not that big, so I can hear him talking. He's trying to flirt with this girl. He was not doing a good job, and he says to her, I hear what he's saying. He says, "Hey, is anybody sitting in the seat? Mind if I sit here?" He says that, and I guess she said, "Yeah, no problem." And I could tell that she was clearly not interested in this guy. She just said, "Yeah, you sit in the seat." He said, "Yeah, you look nice today." And he starts to talk to her. He's trying to say something to her, and he's asked her a couple of questions, trying to strike up some conversation. But again, this guy there was no smoothness to what this guy was doing. He was trying, but he was very obviously failing. And the girl it's very obvious through her body language she was not interested in this guy in the least. And he tried, and he talked a little bit, but nothing was really happening. And she wasn't really saying anything to him. By the time that we got like to the next stop, he had stopped trying to talk to her. He was trying. The whole point I'm making of even bringing that up is that sometimes the person who you have no connection to whatsoever, and you never wanted to have any connection to them, but they have inserted themselves into your situation, you got to get rid of them. All right. So sometimes in life, you just got to get rid of a person. In episode number 1058, I told you about the 3 levels of associations. You have the people who you give 2 minutes, people who get 2 hours, and the people who get 2 days. And you have to put everybody into a category. How much time are you willing to give a person? I can give anybody maybe not even 2 minutes. I give anybody 10 to 15 seconds just to say whatever it is that you want to say. All right, there may be something that you reveal there that may be interesting to me. But after that, you got to go if you have not earned any more of my time. And you need to conduct yourself in a similar way. You can choose the time amounts. I suggest you be very, very stingy with that time because we know time is our most valuable resource. And most of the people who you come across in life may only be worth 2 minutes of your time until or unless they prove that they are worth more. All right, let them prove that they're worth more. You don't have to try to fish for why they may be worth more. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how and when to take out the trash. Number 3, persistent, unacceptable, yet remaining problems, or continuing to exist problems. We'll just call them persistent. We have problems, all of us, that become this type simply because we grow accustomed to them, allowing them to persist because they are not so bad that we absolutely have to do something about them. How many of you have something like this in your life? It's a situation that you don't want. You know it needs to be fixed. You know it needs to change. You know it needs to be extinguished in some way. yet because it's not so pressing, it is not so bad right now that you have subconsciously or consciously talked yourself into allowing that thing to persist, even though you know it needs to be deleted. We all have these. Why? Because human beings are lazy. You've heard me talk about this many times here on the show. I talked about this in episode number 2568. Problem: you are lazy as fuck. Human beings are just fucking lazy. We are lazy. We look to conserve energy. We put things off till later. We procrastinate perpetually. We do things only when we are forced to do them. And this is just normal human nature. And if you want to be an exceptional individual, take everything that I just said and go against the grain of it. Don't be lazy. Don't wait until later. Do not procrastinate. Do not talk yourself into things being okay when you know they're not okay, and move yourself to action all the time. That will make you an exceptional person, even if you have no intelligence, no knowledge, no skills, and you're not really that good at anything. You will be an exceptional person simply because you're going against the grain of what most human beings do. Most people are just lazy. And all of us at different times are lazy. You want to be lazy in as few times as possible. You want to just spend as little time as possible being lazy and more time doing the things that I just said. So we have problems that become this way again because we let them become this way until we're forced to do something. Don't wait till life forces your hand or force your own hand. So when we get conscious about the fact that these types of issues exist, we can build up the necessary motivation, if you will, to do something about them and eliminate them as issues. Again, all of us have these in our lives. It's not a matter of if we have them, it's a matter of how many we have and how important they are. I talked about this when I talked about the levels of procrastination just a few days ago. That was episode number 2964, the levels of procrastination, just a couple days ago. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of what are you procrastinating on, how long, and how important is it. So do not continue to accept the existence of things that are unacceptable for you. And you have to decide what is unacceptable for you. Or what are the things in your life that just shouldn't be there? I talked about this in episode number 2146, your unacceptable list. What are the things on your list that are unacceptable? Also in episode number 2122, how to identify and eliminate the unacceptable. People who play life on the highest level do not accept the existence of anything that they don't want. Let me say that sentence again because I want to make sure everybody heard me. People who play life on the highest level do not accept the existence of anything that they don't want. Nothing. They accept nothing. You just have to make the decision to be this type of person, which leads to a certain type of action. See, decision leads to action, action to outcomes. Let's recap today's class, which is how and when to take out the trash. And this, again, is a metaphor. You already know how to take out your household trash. These are the things that you just don't want in your life, and you know that you don't want them, and you know you don't want them to ever come around again. How do you identify them? How do you get rid of them? Point number one, first of all, identify your bad and unproductive habits. Human beings are creatures of habit. Most of what we do is based on habit. You have to identify which habits are not serving you and fire the ones that are not serving you, fix the ones that can be fixed, and do more of the ones that are helping you and doing well for you. I talked about this in my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com, is that your habits are your employees. They are representing you out to the world, and you are paying them not with money, but with your life. Point number two, useless and non-contributing people. All right, you have to identify who these people are. Sometimes there are people who you know, like, and love. Maybe at one time you trusted them, maybe not so much anymore, but you love these people. You want to help them, but you have realized that you probably can't help them. Sometimes people who you don't know, you don't like, and you don't trust, and you don't want them around you anyway, but they have inserted themselves into your world somehow, some way, and you need to get rid of them. You need to either move yourself out of there or move them out of there. But either way, something has to change. Do not talk yourself into that situation being okay. Again, some of you who work in highly bureaucratic areas, office politics, sports, anywhere you have to deal with people who you didn't necessarily choose, this can happen, and you got to figure out how to deal with these people. Do not just talk yourself into it being okay. Listen to episode number 1058, where I talked about the three levels of people and limiting your associations. Number three, persistent and unacceptable problems. We all have these things in our lives. Again, the levels to procrastination is not a yes or no. And what are you procrastinating on? How long have you been procrastinating? And how important is the thing you're procrastinating on? That's what separates us in levels, not whether or not we're doing it, because we all do it. So we just have to identify the things that we're allowing to persist. And again, remembering that highest level people, they do not accept the existence of anything that they don't want. And if you're a high level person, you need to stop accepting the existence of things that you don't want and enroll or employ anything, person, idea, etc. that you need to in order to fix that situation, because that's what high level people do. Text me, see you in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You'll like to work with me directly so we can get rid of all these unacceptable things, people, and habits and replace them with the things that you do want. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. We have formulas, structures, and systems for all of this, along with me helping you directly in the process. Work on your game. Dre, all